welcome everyone to another episode of Thought Crimes, the podcast where no topics are off limits. If you or I or Jason were able to learn even one thing today, then I think we're on the right track. So, before we begin, Jason, what's new with you, buddy?
Oh, man. It's nice to be back, do another episode. I've been looking forward to this one. We'll get into the topic later, but it's one that I really enjoy. I know something that you do too, and I can't wait to share with everyone. This week, this was I won't get into the details of work, but essentially I was foisted into a second role. So I'm doing my job plus another job, and I'm kind of enjoying it, in all honesty. The first couple of days were hectic, but it's a lot more responsibility, but I'm kind of appreciating having that extra responsibility and being able to make some changes within my area.
Right. It makes you a bit more flexible.
A little more flexible, a little bit more accountable. And since I have a little bit more leeway to make things happen, I can kind of shape the direction of how things are going a little bit better. And what's that?
You gonna ask for a pay raise?
That's in the works. That's always in the works.
I mean, I think that's fair. It's not even a contentious question.
No, of course. And whatever is what it is. But it's interesting, it's different, and I appreciate having the opportunity to rise to the occasion. Let's say. How about you, man? What's new?
Well, best of luck, buddy.
Oh, thanks.
New, not much, man. I gotta say, happy doing these podcasts, doing some research for this, trying to get this off the ground. It's been really nice here this week. So it's actually been sunny. The snow's been melting really fast. So I've been taking more walks, getting my dog out a little bit more, and looking forward to getting the bicycle out, cycling a little bit. It's still early, of course. I'm getting a little too excited, but in a bit of time, I'll be able to get out on the road again. And it's actually been good for the mental state this week. You know, when like the first kind of sun of spring comes out, especially after this year, all these lockdowns, all this crap, I think I'm not the only one to say that when you first see this kind of warmer temperature and the sun come out, it's man, does it feel good.
Yeah, man, it does. Have you been getting any outdoor runs in?
Yeah, I actually this week I've been running a bit more as well. Yeah.
I got my first outdoor run of the year yesterday.
Nice. Yeah. No, it feels good. Yeah. I haven't run enough this winter.
Nah, me neither. Just the way the gyms were, like they were shuttered half the time. I find winters I'll tend to do a little bit more treadmill stuff. Like, I mean, I ran cross country through university, so like I know how to run in the cold, but it's a pain in the ass for no reason. If you're not trying to compete for something, it's like, whatever, I'll get outside when it's nicer out.
Yeah, it's not nearly as fun. Plus you got to layer up. You're out too cold, but then you get too hot. I do it once in a while, but my cardio definitely always goes down during the winter.
Yeah, I like it as a challenge. Like when I was living with a few other guys and we're all doing track, sure, we had our workouts for indoor season, but we still want to get some longer runs in. And a couple times, it was full out blizzard. And we're like, okay, let's go get a 20-minute in. And it was snow up like halfway above your ankles. We had to put snowboard goggles on because it was blizzarding that much. And we still managed to get like a 5-6K in that took us like an hour and a half because there was so much snow. But nice. It was just like fun to be fun, right?
Yeah, it's like resistance training at that point.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's almost like running in sand. Hey, if ever you want a good cardio workout, go run on the beach. I know it looks Baywatchy, it looks a little bit corny, but you will get a good workout, and especially for your feet, because you have to run barefoot, and all the muscles in your feet, like you will feel it the next day, and they'll probably even cramp up while you're running. But it's going to help your posture. It's going to help your running mechanics a lot down the road.
Listen to Jason. That's actually your background. Your educational background is what is it in exactly? What was your master's?
Well, my undergrad was in kinesiology, so exercise science.
And then didn't you do a master's in?
Yeah, well, health science research. So okay. There, I did like an epidemiological study.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Which is kind of funny because like when you talk COVID and someone's like, "You're not an expert," I was like, actually, like, I mean, I didn't study viruses or diseases, but I do technically have a master's in epidemiology and I
in
know how
that
to track
concept.
stuff. So, kind of like a little bit. I can at
Yeah.
least hold my own when it comes to stats.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I was gonna say, and an MBA. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
stats is.
all the university kids don't do what I did. Not a smart plan.
So actually, we're going to one of our future episodes will be about the kind of the golden question: is university worth it? And we'll go into details, what kind of degrees and all these things, and we might bring in my sister, who is a current teacher, to discuss that as well.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be a fun one. Spoiler alert: no, unless it's something that's obviously good, like engineer or
Yeah,
nurse or something like that.
yeah, I think we can make arguments for both, but we've both been to university, so we can. I think we can make arguments for both sides.
Oh yeah, we'll have fun with that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
So what do you
So
want to talk about today?
so today, this is kind of like it's a topic I think you and I are going to try to delve into more often. I think we're going to try and make more of these episodes. And this one specifically, we're going to start it on productivity. This is something I think we both do fairly well, but I would say I admire to a certain extent your productivity and your work ethic, especially in the last couple years. So I'll let you kind of lead off on this. But this podcast is really just this episode is about giving our tips and tricks on how to be productive, what we typically do to stay productive, stay motivated, when it's good to procrastinate, when it's not, all that kind of stuff. It's rarely good to procrastinate, but of course, everyone has their limits. There are times for rewards and relaxing and all that kind of stuff. So
I might play some Skyrim tonight. Actually, come to think of it.
there you go.
Hey, but I appreciate the compliment. That's very nice of you to say. But like you said, like we're not perfect either. We're not going to pretend to be. Just like Will said, it's something that we think we do probably better than average. So we want to share at least a little bit of what we know. And if it's helpful for you, well, Tom, you. And if there's something you think that we can do better, let us know in the comments, and we're happy to listen.
Or if you want us to delve into something a bit more specific next time, let us know as well. Let's start with the context of this past year. COVID and rules and governance around COVID has forced a lot of people to stay in their own homes. Some even lose their jobs, not be able to go to the gym. All do all of these normal things, some of which can be considered very productive day-to-day things that you were typically able or allowed to do before this past year. So looking at COVID, I guess for exactly a year now, it's been exactly a year since COVID kind of started and the lockdowns and the regulations started. Looking back, do you think you have been productive enough? Do you look back and say, I think with the time that I was given at COVID, because a lot of people have a lot more time at home, and I think both you and I live that. And would you be comfortable in looking back at this year and saying you've done enough, you felt like you were productive enough? And if yes, why? If no, why not?
One thing that goes hand in hand with productivity is discipline. It's really hard to separate the two. And like we all saw the memes, right? At the start of the pandemic a year ago, there was all the things like I'm going to learn a new language, I'm going to build a deck, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then as the year progressed, you got like all the photos of how the pandemic started and how the pandemic ended. It'd be like this like very nice like pretty bird building a nest, and at the end it's like a chicken with like half his feathers plucked.
It's
Like,
like, it's like have you ever seen? There's a great meme for exactly what you're trying to convey. It's the seasons of Game of Thrones,
okay.
and like the first, I think it's like season 1 to 5 or something like that, is like a beautifully drawn horse. It's like a perfect picture of a
Oh
horse.
yeah.
Yeah, and then like 6, and then 7, 8, 9, or I think it's 8. Whatever seasons. The last ones were shit. It's basically like a 3-year-old drew a horse.
It's a stick figure with a smiley face in it.
Yeah, it's great.
So my job, like I manage a support services department within a hospital. So to say that my job got lighter and I started it 2 weeks before the pandemic, no. So to say
Right.
that I was able to stay home and like work from home and do that, no, I had to learn a brand new job in a brand new workplace in a brand new environment. and then 2 weeks later a pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So there was no chill, there was no easy, there was no like moments of, man, I have a lot of time to kill. However, what I did have before the pandemic was a second side hustle where I was working in a men's clothing store selling. I was working about 20 hours a week, so that got cut down to essentially zero. So I gained those 20 hours. Now the difficulty is before I moved to that new job, the job prior was essentially brain dead. So I could walk out of that job, be fresh, walk onto the second job, and then come back and then just do my stuff. This new job here don't have the luxury of being as mentally sharp. Now this is where the discipline comes in, and the reason I'm saying all this, it ties to productivity, is that at the end of the day, if you make a contract with yourself, if you use some of the practical tips that we're going to get into later, you can kind of bypass to a good extent having those moments of like, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I don't know what to do, I'm not sure what to do, and I just don't want to do anything.
But just to finish off on that question though, do you think that, so you lost, let's say you lost that gig, that side gig with 20 hours. Do you think with the 20 hours and with like the gym being closed half the time, so that's more time, do you think you were productive enough with that extra time that was given to you in the past year? So like an example is we have been, we started working on this podcast, for instance.
Yeah. So we started this podcast. I also started another side hustle on my own that's in progress right now. I'm developing the skill set to launch it properly. Also bought a house and did renovations and kind of landlording 101 at the same time. So there's a lot going on. To say it's the same amount of hours, I probably do have a little bit more downtime. And in all honesty, my discipline for certain things has fallen off, but for other things it's increased. So like we said at the start, we're not infallible, and we'll touch on all those things. So I think I took some of that time, instead of doing like when you go to the job, you know what to expect, right? You show up, you do your job for X number of hours, and you leave. When you're going a little bit more down the entrepreneurship road, you don't have that same luxury of saying, okay, I'm going to show up from 6 to 9, and that's going to be it. It's, you have to understand what the problem is, find the solution, implement it. So there's a different type of discipline there.
Plus you feel extra guilty, right? As an entrepreneur, if you're working for yourself, it's always like, well, I could do more, right?
Yeah, exactly. And at some point, we'll get one of our good friends on who's growing a business and doing it very successfully, and he'll be the person to really speak about entrepreneurship and what's the ways to make that happen.
And he works hard.
That he does. No one can take that away from him.
Yeah, it's not easy work. So let's talk a bit about a few kind of productivity concepts.
Okay, so there's two books from the same author that I really enjoy. Jocko Willink, retired Navy SEAL. Mm-hmm. If I'm assuming you've heard of him. Great big guy, like real stone face, hard as a rock. Was a commander in Iraq and is now a public speaker, owns multiple businesses, and does business consulting and leadership training.
And he's now published a few children's books.
He has.
Yeah, which apparently are good. I haven't read them, but...
Yeah, Way of the Warrior Kid, I think, is one of his books.
Yes. Then there's one about like a boy and a dragon or something.
I think that's one of the more recent ones. Yeah. Anyways, all around stand up guy from the outside, seems to be getting people results. Anything you listen from him, it resonates. Just it's a good figure to look up to.
So you've actually read one of his books recently?
Yeah. So I got through Discipline Equals Freedom. And it's a great read. Essentially, the concept is that whatever you touch, you are responsible for, and the more you take responsibility of that thing, the greater the outcome will be. And he gives a ton of examples, like from his background in the military, and a lot of hard fought lessons that he had to learn. One of them that really stuck out to me, and I'm paraphrasing here, so if I don't get it exactly correct, my apologies. He was leading a team of American soldiers up in Ramadi, Iraq, and moving on to a position of insurgents. Now, his team split up into two, and they were both converging onto the same position. But communications were lost, signals were lost for whatever reason, and one team ended up opening fire on the other team. So the second team returned fire on the first team, both thinking that they were enemy fighting units. There were some casualties, there were some injuries, and that sort of thing. And I'm not a military person, so I can't speak to it personally. But from what I understood, you could attribute blame 1,000 different ways, from 1,000 different things, from equipment failure to planning failure to decision making failures, whatever it may be. Uh, when an investigation was made onto that particular incident in front of a commanding officer, Jocko, who was the commander of that entire operation, who was physically far enough removed to not be able to intervene in person, was asked, "Who's to blame? Whose fault is it?" And he said, "It's mine. It is 100% my fault." And that's essentially the core of extreme ownership there. It's not just because he was the leader of that operation, but it's because he could have made the directions clearer to his sub commanders, or whatever the rank may be. He could have planned it out better. He could have made sure the equipment was more ready. He could have double checked with his second in commands to make sure that they went and revised the plan with their teams before being put into action. And that's, you can apply that concept to any echelon. You don't have to be a leader. You don't have to be the person at the top of the pyramid. All you have to be able to do is say, whatever I touch, I am responsible for.
Right.
And if I am responsible for it, I will take the blame if it goes incorrectly. And that's very counterintuitive at the start, right? Because you're thinking, I'm going to take the hit for something that's not my fault. I delegate something to my subordinate and he doesn't do it. Or I just send an email to a colleague who's an equal to me, and then they don't get back, or the project doesn't get done properly. How is that my fault? Well, it's your fault because maybe you didn't circle back on them and you didn't make sure. Maybe you didn't offer clear direction. Maybe you didn't make sure that they had everything that they needed. So all these little things that you could have done and probably passed through your mind, but you just kind of brushed it off. If you would have done those, you would have gotten the outcome that you wanted.
Right. And I think too, by taking ownership, by like everything you touching, or a project you have to complete, or a part of your job you have to do, all these things, whenever you take extreme ownership, like he says, then you actually, like, you automatically have to care more, right? If you're responsible of the outcome of everything you touch and are somewhat or maybe responsible for, then you have to have that kind of pride to follow it through till the end, right?
Right, because it's almost like your name is on everything that you happen
Right.
to come across, whether you want it to or not.
You're making a social contract with everything you touch, right?
Right. So again, that's his idea. Go look at some Jocko Willink, and you'll learn a lot right from the source. Great reference.
I would say it's funny because he's actually kind of I feel like he's a pretty well liked guy, right? And he's not a political guy at all. But it's funny because just that kind of mentality is so counterculture right now.
It's very counterculture, but the way he presents it is apolitical, and it's very motivational. He's the kind of guy that you want to follow into war. So I think he has that gravitas. He has that way of speaking that no matter your political persuasion, you'll at least be, I don't want to say humbled, but you'll at least want to follow him in one way or another.
Right.
So there's another core concept too, which is discipline equals freedom. And it's kind of like extreme ownership, where it's a little counterintuitive at the start. So discipline equals freedom means the more that you hold yourself accountable, the more that you follow through with your things, the more that you are regimented and you do things exactly how they should be done, the way they should be done, and you don't stop until it's done because you are very disciplined to your core, you will be freer. And that's where the counterintuitive part comes in. Well, you think, how, if I'm doing so much exactly the way it needs to be done, how am I freer? It's like investing. You're buying dividend stocks. You're restricting your budget to be able to buy something that will pay you a dividend. The more disciplined that you are, the more you'll accomplish, and the more that will take care of you.
Right. Although I'd probably say it's one of those you got to get over the hump, right, before it starts to feel like freedom.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Again, same thing as investing, right? Like how many years does it take of buying shares at 4%? Well, you put
Right.
$100 into a share or a company that pays 4%. Congratulations, you're making $1 per quarter if they pay out quarterly. Good for you. You saved up your pennies and you put $1,000 in 6 months. You're making $40 that year, but that adds up.
So, have any? Because you and I have talked about this before, and I think you have some good kind of tips and tricks on the things you do and how you stay motivated, organized, and productive. So, can you share a bit of that?
Okay, well, before I get into the tips, let me give you a bit of a personal story when I felt like I was at a low point and I used productivity and discipline to get onto another level. And like I said at the start, it's very hard, in my opinion, anyways, to separate the two because to be productive, you almost need to be disciplined.
Let me ask you though first. When you were at a low, is it when I left for university?
Man, you had to bring that up, didn't you? Man, that was a long time ago, eh?
That was so long ago.
Jesus Christ.
What? It was 12 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
I think
when
we
did
were
we
going
graduate
on
high school?
12.
2008?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, 2008. Was it that hard for you? Because I can't really remember.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I know. You're just fucking with me. It's all good. All right. So, like I mentioned earlier, I started this new job about a year ago. Well, the job I held before that, pretty brain dead. Like I could get my day's work, my week's work done in one single morning. So I basically had 4.5 days of just doing nothing and just staring at a screen. And the mental torture of that is you kind of have to make yourself look busy. So how do you make yourself look busy for another 30 hours a week when you had 5 hours worth of actual work to do? It just that was
Yeah.
torturous. And
Yeah.
then, okay, it's the whole thing of, where am I going? What am I doing? All the existential questions that come up when you have way too much time to yourself. So I had the second job, and that was good. That was a little bit more social. That provides some extra income that I can invest with and bring toward other goals. That's great. But I knew I wanted a change, and the change was obviously going to come from a career change, but I thought, let's go deeper than that. Let's work on all the other aspects. Let's build up everything around that. So when there is a change, it's not just a change in one aspect, but since I have so much excess mental bandwidth that I'm not using at work, let's put that to work and let's level up. So essentially, and this leads into our tips a little bit, I made myself a calendar and I made myself a little list of I'm going to play 5 minutes of guitar per day. I'm going to read at least 5 minutes per day. I'm going to stretch 5 minutes per day. And my workouts, I was already getting my workouts in. That's just, par for the course. I knew I was going to get those in. So you might think, okay, reading 5 minutes per day, that's pretty low. Or, playing
I
music.
mean, guys, Jason is just learning. So,
Yeah, I learned to read like 2 years ago. So, don't hold that against me. Words
yeah.
are hard, okay?
Yeah. The Jocko Willing book he actually read is the children's book he just published.
It was a coloring book, and then I ate the crayons. Purple was the tastiest. But anyways, so why did I choose such low goals? Well, if I tell myself I have to read for half hour a day, disciplined all you want,
Is it realistic?
is it realistic?
Right.
So I'm going to pick up the book. I'm going to read for at least 5 minutes. But here's what happens when you start to read for 5 minutes. You get into it. So 9 times out of 10, I would end up reading for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe an hour if it was a really good day. But I also had those other 5 minutes to do as stretching and music. So maybe one day it would be, 10 minutes worth of guitar, 20 minutes worth of reading, and 5 minutes worth of stretching. Maybe if it was a great day, it was, an hour of each, whatever it may be. Oh, and the last thing I had to do since I was trying to change jobs was 2 job applications per week, no matter what. Didn't matter
That's a
when they
big
were.
one.
Yeah,
That's a big one.
because that
It
was
takes time, man.
they're such a pain in the ass. Like
Yeah.
upload your resume. Okay, cool. Now answer all these questions that are easily answerable or inferable from your resume.
In the CV, yeah,
Yeah.
and then write a cover letter.
And then write a cover letter. And then, do this skill testing questionnaire. And then maybe we'll call you, maybe we won't. And then once we do call you, okay, well, we have another test for you. And it just goes on and on. And anyone can relate to that one. Like, les programmes de dotation these days they're just dog shit. And anyway, so got those and eventually got the new job. The new job being more taxing had less mental bandwidth, but still stuck with the music and the stretching and everything. COVID hit, bought the first building. So, there was a lot of changes, but I feel like that discipline was what helped propel me into where I'm at right now.
Right.
That's not where I want to end, but it's another level higher than where I was.
Yeah, and I think you were doing a pretty good job. I think I remember telling you a long time ago. I said, Jason, I want to be happy with little things, right? Like I want to find joy in things in life, right? I want to be happy with this moment. I want to be happy with my wife while we're doing that, blah blah blah. But I don't always want to be fully content with the big picture,
Hmm.
right? I want to feel like there's always something more I can do. And at the same time, I find it's a blessing and a curse because it can keep me motivated and just keep me a bit more wide eyed and dreaming about something. But at the same time, there are certain bad days where you can't help but feel defeated, like you should be more and have done more already.
I like how you put that. That's a very balanced perspective in my view, where it's, stop and smell the roses, but understand that the roses are on the roadside and you're still moving along the road.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah, exactly.
I think the way, like, where I was coming from in that time was I had a lot of things I was dissatisfied from that stemmed from one core thing. So there was a core dissatisfaction there that I was working to alleviate. And I said, how can I build everything around it through discipline, through productivity, that I'm at least growing, and that will surround an area where I'm stagnating until I'll be able to grow in that area.
Right. So, talk to us about some of the kind of tips and tricks you used.
Yeah. So we want this to be actionable, right? And we're going to do more and more stuff like this where we're going to tell some personal stories and we're going to give you some ideas of things that we use and things that we either did naturally or learned to do a little bit better. And so like Will said, here's a couple tips. Here's some things that we both do. I'll start with the things that I do and then Will will jump in and give his. And it might give you a little kickstart because there we spoke a lot of the like the whys of being productive, but let's do the hows. So let's say you just have a hard time getting going, and I find like right now, and I'm sure a lot of people can attest to this one. One of the hardest times to be productive is the weekend, especially if your work is demanding. Now I understand, a lot of people have their work shuttered. I get it, but for those who still have that hard grind, your days off might feel like just a time to unwind. The way that Will and me look at the weekend, it's the time to work on the escape plan. So it's the time that you want to do the least, but you have to do the most. So, what's one way that I get around from slacking off on the weekend? I do what's called the preemptive strike. So, what I do is before I even get to the weekend, either Thursday or Friday when I get in, I've walked around, I've done my workout, I'm energized, I'm fresh. I'm going to write down a list. This is the 4, 5, 6, 8 things that I want to do this weekend. It's right there. It's written. I'm committed to it. They're going to get done. So the reason I do that before entering the weekend properly is if I wait till Saturday, well, Saturday is going to get away from me. I'm at least going to lose the morning at best. And then Saturday is probably going to get away from me, and then it's Sunday. And then Sunday, well, it's Sunday, whatever, and then it's the evening, and then next thing you know, it's Monday. You got to wait another week until you got that same opportunity again.
Right.
So
there's no more depressing time than Sunday night.
If you've done sweet fuck all with it.
Yes. Yeah.
I find Sunday right now, I go to bed and I have this little smirk to me because I know I'm that much closer to the end result that I want. And I know that I'm chipping away at the amount of time that I have to go to bed at Sunday night at this time. So I'm happy for Sunday night now.
Mm.
So that's what the preemptive strike allows me to do, is I'm going to stop that possible unproductivity with a commitment of productivity. But okay, so you do that. That's great. But now Saturday morning rolls around. Maybe you slept in a little too much. And now what do? How do you not let Saturday drag on? Okay, I'm going to make coffee. I'm going to take my time. Well, I'll watch a show or two. And then, okay, I'll get to it slowly. How do you avoid that? And then next thing you know, it's 4 p.m. and you did fuck all.
Yeah, that's my nightmare. I used to, so I remember you used to sleep in a lot as a kid. You're a sleeper. I'm not. Like you can sleep well. I'll be an insomniac by the time I'm 40 for sure.
Yeah, you
But
you never slept that well, eh?
no, but I remember when I was a kid, and especially going into the teen years, that's typically where like the kids start sleeping in, right? Like crazy. Like I knew some kids they could sleep till like 1 p.m. And to me, that was insane. I remember if I woke up at 8 p.m., 8 a.m., sorry, I had lost my day. Like
Yeah,
that was me when
yeah,
I was a kid.
yeah. And I know, like, and you know how you always sleep less when you're at someone else's place. Like, I'd sleep over at your place, and you would still wake up before me.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be like, "Come on, let's go do stuff." I'm like, "No, it's 9, dude. Let me sleep." Like, what are you talking about?
I'm like, 9, this is so late, dude.
Yeah. But I definitely lost that. I think just through work and through discipline and getting a little bit older. Now I slept in last Sunday, and I was like, shit, I lost my day. It must be like 10. I get up, it's 6:50. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Let's just keep the ball rolling.
Seriously, that's not sleeping in for me today is like 8:30 would be like a pretty good sleep in.
Yeah, same. Yeah, that
Yeah.
to me, that's I'm more than well rested, because right now I get
Yeah.
up at 5:30 for work. So
Yeah, it sucks.
like past 6:30, I feel amazing. But anyways, so how do you build momentum? Say that you get up Saturday morning. How do you get things going? I have two things that I like to do, and I give them catchy little names so you can remember them. The first one is the snowball, and the second one is the contract. So the snowball is super simple. It's exactly what you think it is. You're going to start small, and you're going to build, and you're going to build, and you're going to build. Obviously, the military knows what they're talking about when it comes to productivity, because there's this admiral from the U.S. military. You've probably seen his speech somewhere. He's either on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is. And his big thing is, what's the first thing you do in the morning? Is you make your bed. And the reason for that is that it gives you that first little sense of accomplishment, so that you're motivated to do the next thing and the next and the next. And after you've done all these other next things, you have a nice made bed to come to, so you feel happy at the end of the day. I kind of have that same idea. I do it a little bit differently. So for me, my snowball, I know we don't have video right now, but if you look at my kitchen, the dishes are all over the place. And I did that purposely, because tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up, and the first thing I'm going to do is make coffee and do the dishes. Now, I don't mind doing the dishes. It's easy, it's simple, there's no thought to it. I could have a podcast on in the background, no big deal. It's a little bit physical, so there's a little bit of oxygenation and movement happening. But as soon as I'm done the dishes, my kitchen's clean. It looks nice, and I've accomplished that first thing. So now I'm already moving in that right direction. Well, what's the next thing going to be? All right, cool. I probably have had breakfast by that point. If the bathroom's looking a little rough, I'll probably clean the bathroom. I'll probably sweep the floors. Just a little bit of house care like that. Now I'm going to look around. Everything's good. Okay. And I'm moving. I'm feeling good. My place looks nice. What's the next thing I'm going to do? Now I'm going to go take out that list that I did in the preemptive strike.
Right.
What's something that I
And
can hit? Go.
yeah, and worst case at that point, even if like something comes up, right? A friend hits you up, or I don't know, then the rest of your day is a write off because you got drunk, or I don't know, whatever it may be. At least the time you had in the morning, then you come back to a really friggin' clean house.
Yeah. Worst case, at least your place is clean.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what I'm going to do. And it's the snowball, right? It's the next thing and the next thing. It's Newton's first law. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. And like Will said, like the unless another force acts upon it, could be the phone ringing, could be a friend stopping up by, could be whatever. But unless that happens, I have my momentum and it's going to carry me through the day just because I did the dishes first thing and then I swept the floors.
Right. And you mentioned kind of you'll have a podcast in the background or something, especially since I've started working from home with COVID and everything. Now that I'm kind of alone all day, every day, that's something I do, right? If I'm doing the dishes, if I'm working out, if I'm walking the dog, I've got something almost, you could say, semi-productive on, right? I've got a stimulation going. I've got podcasts on in the background. I'm learning about actuality, politics, comedy, whatever it may be, but there's something else that I'm doing. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not a great multitasker, but that's something, truly easy to do while doing something else.
Yeah, and like if you use the dishes example with it, well, you're doing something that's mindless, so your mind is free to absorb something. So you feel like you're accomplishing two tasks at once. So then you really have that momentum to keep going.
Exactly.
What are you listening to these days, by the way?
Podcast wise,
Yeah, or like or show wise, or just what's filling your ears these days?
Actually, the last one I listened to today is a comedy podcast. It's Ryan Long. I've mentioned him to you before. He's kind of becoming big on YouTube. He makes like videos, kind of like satire, sarcastic sketches on YouTube, and he's really kind of blowing up. So he also has a podcast, kind of a comedy / social commentary podcast that he does, I think, every Friday. So I just listened to that one today. It's called The Boys Cast.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember you mentioned one to me. I should really make a point of listening to it. Like I was saying before we started recording, I feel like I'm listening to a lot of the same stuff now, and not that I know it all, but like I have a good enough grasp on the subject matter that it's kind of getting repetitive.
I think too, like it just goes in waves, right? Everything is kind of cool. I really want this kind of info, and then I'm saturated. I'll take a break, and then I'll come back to it. Right? It's like anything else. You have too much. I had too much Nutella as a kid, so it's not as great. It wasn't as great for a while.
That's true. You guys always had Nutella at the house.
Yeah.
That and like the little like crackers, like like the cheese and crackers in the little individual package.
Yeah.
You guys had a lot of that.
My mom always had a stock because we made our own lunches. That was the rule. If you'd make your own lunches, but there was stuff available. It's just you had to, prepare it the night before.
Oh, that's
a bag.
That's a good parenting like trick right there. Like teaching a responsibility, a little bit of pre-planning.
Yeah. There was that. There was another good thing my mom did was when I turned 13, I think. Yeah, 13, is the first teen year, right? And she said, okay, you're 13. This is how you do the laundry.
Very nice.
And I'm going to show you how to do the laundry, and I'm never going to do your laundry again.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she was right. Like, she did not touch my my clothes ever again. And it's like, well, if you smell, if your laundry is shit, then that's because that's your fault.
Way to go. That is that's teaching productivity and teaching responsibility.
For sure. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I was in Army cadets as a kid, so I went to summer camp. My first one, I was 12, and then, 13, 14, 15, and so on. And then I had to do my laundry there. So I remember before leaving, my mom was like, hey, you might want to know this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not it's not super hard, but it still needs to be taught.
Yeah, well, if you don't know it, you don't know it, right? It's like anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, no, don't put that in the wash.
Hey,
especially on the dryer.
Okay, so now we're both 30 years old. So what's your washing? Like, do you separate colors and whites and darks, or do you do hot? Do you do cold? What do you do?
So I have a wife. So we have tasks that I prefer to do and that she prefers to do. And she definitely does the laundry.
Okay.
I do not do the laundry. I mean, I can do the laundry, but she does it 99% of the time. I'm more of a cook supper kind of guy.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Cook supper, build stuff around the house, shovel the driveway, that kind of stuff.
Look at you, growing chest hair by the minute.
Oh yeah, so much chest hair. For the listeners, they have to understand just how hairy I am.
So I think I got enough for the two of us.
Yeah.
But all right, so do you want to get to the second tip?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so we covered the snowball. And the second tip, I call it the contract. So snowball, you get the idea. Start small, keep going, bigger and bigger and bigger, and just plow through your list. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is what you're going to do. Say you have 6 things on your list, and you get through 4 of them. The 2 that you did not do were the 2 that you were dreading the most. So you're always going to
Guilty, man. I feel like you're just
actually.
badgering.
Well, I'll tell you what. We all have our faults, and if you're anything like me, that's exactly the way that you're going to operate. You're going to do all the things that, like, okay, that one makes sense to do next. That one makes sense. Hey, look at me. I did 2/3 of my list. Except the 2 that were really a pain in the ass to do are the 2 that got put to the side. So the next one is the contract. So let's say you got through 4 out of your 6 things on Saturday. Now you're going to bed Saturday, and Sunday is going to hit. Now Sunday comes around. So the contract that you make with yourself is that first thing I do tomorrow morning is that most annoying one. And now that gives you it's going to give you 2 things. First, you're going to be able to go to bed Saturday night satisfied because it's almost like you've already done the thing that you're dreading to do. You're not going to be thinking about it. Oh, am I going to do it? Am I not? Or whatever. It's almost halfway done because you've already committed to it.
Because you're in the mental state of doing it.
Exactly. You're already in the mental state of doing it. So like an example of that would be, I don't know, like for Will, it might be having to edit one of these episodes and have to listen to my voice for an hour and a half. No,
Yeah, I do it on every. I can tell the audience. I do. Thank you. I do it every Sunday.
There you go.
Yeah, because that's where I'm most patient.
It's tedious, right? So it's that kind of thing. Like, I don't know. It might be the thing that resembles the most the work that you do, 9 to 5 anyways. So if you're a tradesman, the last thing you probably want to do is go and, rewire electrical panel or install a toilet or build a set of stairs. If you're an administrative person, the last thing you might want to do is your taxes because it's kind of similar to what you do anyways. So it's just satan peu. But when you hold yourself to that contract, you go to bed, I don't know, let's call it Saturday night, and Sunday, by noon, essentially that thing is done. You're going to feel happy about it because it's already basically done.
Yeah. I'll kind of add on to that. I have something similar I call the preemptive accomplishment, but that's more of like a day-to-day thing. It's not kind of a weekly or overnight thing. Whereas basically if I wake up and it's a work day, so let's say an 8 to 4, 8 to 5 work day, and I should work out. Most people should exercise, work out, almost every day. And so there's not really an excuse. It should be, okay, after my job hours are done, I should go downstairs to my gym and work out, right?
Now, obviously not everyone has a gym at home, but maybe it's going for a run. Maybe it's just getting in the car, going to the weight room.
Right.
Maybe it's walking the dog, whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's basically because, again, we our gyms kept closing, on and off throughout the year. So at that point, I was like, screw it. I'm going to buy a bit of my own weight equipment. So I have a squat rack. I can bench press, that kind of stuff, right?
Dude, that's all you need. That's perfect.
Yeah, it's a good base. So what do I do now? I just have to go downstairs after work and work out. And that's kind of my preemptive accomplishment where I wake up and I say, my job is not 8 to 4 now, it's 8 to 5. Because after 4 o'clock, when I'm finished work, or when I hope to finish work, I'll go downstairs and then I can work out for an hour. And if I don't, then I should feel really guilty.
Yeah,
because my job was to work 8 to 5, and that includes that task of working out. So that's what I call the preemptive accomplishment. It's kind of like the contract, but I do it more on like a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say too is, you had mentioned kind of the snowball, or really any kind of accomplishment you want to do in a day, a week, a year, whatever it is aim small, miss small, right? And that's actually from I think it's from The Patriot, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if they own that expression.
Like the Mel Gibson movie there, where he brings his sons into the woods and just ambush the shit out of a bunch of Englishmen there
with the little tomahawk.
That was a dope scene.
Yeah, good movie. Anyways, I think it's from that movie, but aim small, miss small, right? So again, have realistic goals, especially if it's like I just said, when I give myself a daily goal, it's got to be realistic. And if it's starting a project, whether that's partly renovating your house or a goal you want to give yourself when you're weightlifting, like make it realistic. Again, always great to push yourself, but make it a realistic goal so that it's not so ridiculous that you won't do it. Just like you said, like, giving myself all of these chores to do every day and reading at least 30 minutes a day, not realistic, because there's plenty of days where you won't have time to read 30 minutes. So aim small, miss small, guys.
I think you kind of like touched on, like, y'all learn this when you take like leadership classes, or I had my kin degree, SMART goals, and kind of touches on what you're saying here. And each letter is an acronym. S is for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time based. So that's kind of what you're saying there with have something that's, aim small, miss small. Well, it's a relevant and it's an attainable goal.
Right.
Not to get all like, whatever.
Except don't waste your time. Yeah, except don't waste your time creating acronyms.
Yeah, no. Don't go to university, kids.
So before, that's not true. Sometimes.
Be an engineer or a doctor. Don't take sociology.
Or a nurse.
Yeah, or a nurse. Nurse is good. Nurse is a great one.
Yeah, I'm not biased at all. So before we get to the end, I want to finish with a kind of a lightning round I'm going to ask you basically all sorts of questions related to scheduling and motivation. Anything else you want to cover before then, though?
Yeah, man. One last thing before we kind of finish it off on a high note is, let's say you tried the snowball, it doesn't work. You tried the preemptive accomplishment, it doesn't work. You tried the contract, it doesn't work. You listen to the personal stories, you read all of Jocko's books, still nothing happening. And the key here is you're dissatisfied with your life. Well, when are you going to take action? At the end of the day, when your life sucks so much that the pain of doing nothing and continuing to exist in that agony is greater than the pain of taking that first step, you're going to take that first step, because at that point it's the path of least resistance. So if you're that stuck in your ways, well, just wait until things suck enough that you can't tolerate yourself anymore, and you're going to move. Because if not, you're just going to be wallowing in that forever.
Right. And I think it's kind of like a related point to tough love to a certain extent, right? I think a good, there are limits and there are ways to do it, but I think a good friend, for instance, if I thought Jason was really, I don't know, Jason was really gaining weight, letting himself go, and just not reaching his potential, right? And I know the guy really well. And so if I thought that Jason could do better and he's in a big rut, then maybe part of it would be for me to highlight basically just at how much potential you're not.
Dude, you're fucking up, and here's why.
Basically, right?
And you know what? A good friend will do that for you.
Exactly. Or like, hey man, you gained a lot of weight. Like, should we talk about it? Do you want to go work out? Dude, I can,
You are disgusting.
But, that's sometimes a bit of tough love shows that at least someone was observant and then had the balls enough to care to say something rough enough to get that person like, okay, you're right. You know what? I don't like myself the way I am right now. I'm too complacent. Let's make a change. Thanks for, having made that comment.
And a lot of people, well, everyone will notice your shortcomings. Like, let's be real. If they take a moment to observe, they'll notice. Most people won't want to say anything because they won't want to rock the boat, or they don't want to hurt your feelings. A very good friend, probably the one you don't want to talk to, is the one who's going to tell you, hey man, something's up here. Tell me about it. Let's get going.
Right. And there are ways to go about it, but yes, a good friend will tell you that. A saying I find really funny, and I always kind of stop people when they say that, when they say, I don't judge. And I'm like, no.
Bullshit.
Everybody judges. It's whether or not you take action or you react to that judgment, right? But we all judge, right? You always observe something, and then it registers in your brain, and your brain decides what to do with that thing. That is a judgment. So
So yeah, man, how do you want to finish this one?
yeah. So let's just do a quick lightning round before we finish. A few questions related to this topic. So you had mentioned at the beginning, I guess you use a board, so you make lists on a board or a
I
calendar. How does
I
it work?
I did that one at a point. Right now, I more do the preemptive strikes with the lists. Most things I kind of have on lock right now. I get home from work, pack my bags, go straight to the gym, come back. I'm going to clean up a little bit. I might read. I might work on the podcast. I'm kind of on autopilot for a lot of stuff right now. So
So you don't need to write anything down.
I've built up the muscle memory. Like
Right.
in all honesty, I've been slacking on the music in the last
Same.
few months. So guilty. And for that one there, well, I'd have to rebuild the momentum. I'd probably have to do that because it's not something that I could just snowball into a day. It's something I have to snowball into a long term habit. So
Right.
once I decide to get that going again, I'm probably going to have to do that for music.
So what are your thoughts on, and they're usually more common for women, but what are your thoughts for agendas?
I don't
Do
like
you
them.
like them? Do you use them?
I don't really
Okay,
care.
see, me neither. Me neither. I do not care for agendas because I find at the end of the day, and I don't know if it's just how my memory works. I think I remember stuff enough that I don't need an agenda, but I find an agenda becomes more of a task than an actual helper of tasks.
I find, and I think you're right. I think women use agendas more than men. And the women that I've seen use agendas, they'll put more time in prettying up their agenda and having a nice agenda than actually doing the stuff that's in the agenda. So they'll kind
Yeah.
of get like the gratification of planning it, but won't actually do the stuff or will spend less time doing the stuff than they could have. They just would have put the damn agenda away.
I
So
remember it was big in high school. Eh? They had like the different colored pens and all this stuff.
yeah, yeah. Man, remember when we were kids and like they had like sticky pens and you could like instead of writing cursive, you'd write block letters, but there like when every time you lifted the pen, it would leave like a little like goop from where you lifted the pen to where you're going to touch down
Oh,
next.
yeah, yeah, vaguely. I mean, I'm a left-handed guy, so that shit didn't work on me.
Yeah, me too. Hey, I'll tell you what though, I got real ambidextric real quick when I broke my left wrist 3 years in a row.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, the first time was with you.
Wasn't it the last time? It was the first time.
That was the first time. Like my
Oh, we were
parents.
running in the streets.
Yeah, we're running in the streets. My parents were at a friend's house, and we wanted to go to Subway. So for some reason, instead of just going to Subway, we decided to run to my parents or my the friend of the family to ask
Yeah,
my
yeah.
parents if we could
We
go to
slept on
Subway.
black ice.
Yeah, it slipped on black ice, rolled down a hill for like 30 feet, and instead of like, "Hey mom, can I go to Subway?" It's, "Hey mom, I came over here to ask if I could go to Subway, but now my wrist is broken. So could you take me to the hospital?"
Yeah, good times.
Good times.
Anyways, okay, that was one question. So I guess we're no on the agendas. Um, what about rests? So I think there is a limit, right? There's a limit to burnout. There's a limit to doing so many things without being able to appreciate or enjoy anything that is just not worth it. So I guess maybe like, what are your thoughts on rest? What's enough time to recover? How much time should you slack off or do something fun like play video games or eat junk food, whatever it is?
I like your approach to this because I think you're a little more artistic at heart than I am, and you will appreciate. Like you said it a couple times already in this episode, where it's you want to take the time to appreciate the other things and like smell the roses. Spend time with the family, the wife, the dog, etc., and enjoy those little moments. Whereas for me, the rest is okay. It's the downtime that I need until I can start working on the thing to get to my next goal. So I appreciate the idea of the rest, and I think I have something to learn from you in that respect is how to make the most out of your downtime and not just have it be a restful time to decompress to be able to move on to the next task, but really the rest is kind of the enjoyment of the fruits of the
Right. Like,
labors.
like why am I living
Yeah,
a little bit?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't be all mechanical and no human.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. There's a just middle there, and you got to find it. And to each his own, right? It's different for everybody. There's you you hear like the Dragon's Dens guy or the Shark Tank guys and, like the Kevin O'Leary's of the world and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, when they built their empires, they slept 3 hours a night, and some of them still do. And that's just how they're wired. And they go, and they build. And that's just what it is. And when they're not, they feel guilty because they're not,
Yeah.
So it's all how you're wired. But
I'm going to use another Jocko reference to answer your question properly. And what Jocko says is that if you feel that you need a rest day, work that day the same way you would a regular day. And if tomorrow you're still tired, then take the rest day.
mm,
So push yourself that one extra day. And maybe it's just an idea you have to get over that hump, or maybe you're actually tired. And then
right.
you'll be as tired tomorrow as you are today. So then take the rest day.
Right.
For
That's
me,
that takes discipline.
that's a lot of discipline.
But that is a good tip.
For me personally, I find I need just enough rest until I feel just a twinge of guilt. And the moment I feel just that little bit of like, oh, I should be doing something, then it's time to go. And it doesn't
Right.
take long. Yeah, like as soon as you start feeling comfortable, you start feeling okay, that feeling comes out in no time.
Yeah. Yeah. So what if my productivity only comes in bursts of intensity? So again, we're all built differently. What if, and I'm guilty of this too. What if I'm super productive at times, and then other times I'm the exact opposite? You could say I'm kind of like an obsessive personality, right?
Okay. I like this question. This is motivation versus discipline. And you'll notice that this is the first time we say motivation in this entire episode. And the reason I feel like that, discipline is the light side of the force, motivation is the dark side of the force. Motivation is that quick burst, use it when you need it, but when you don't need it, put it aside. Discipline is that nice consistency, and you're going to do more that way. The example I like to use is, you and I both like to spend a lot of time at the gym. How much, which workout program will give you the most benefits? The structured
Shoulders.
program that you do. Oh man, we're
All about
again
shoulders.
we're 6'3" in bean poles. It takes forever to grow shoulders.
Yeah, but the thing is, the second I started working out, like in university, is really when I started working out, and I was a beanpole then. Like,
Yeah,
you
you were.
think I'm being?
You
No,
know,
no.
you were a bean pole then.
Yeah,
I think you're wider than me now, actually.
I don't know. Probably not lately, but damn COVID. But shoulders, especially for a scrawny guy, makes a big difference because it ups your frame when you're wearing clothes,
True.
right?
Okay, so say you're
It
training
gives you that
shoulders.
posture and stature.
100,
It's
absolutely.
an aside, but yeah, I like shoulders.
All right, cool. So what's the most effective shoulder workout? Is it the one where you're going to hit shoulders twice a week for half an hour each workout, and maybe on a third day you'll have a circuit where there might be a shoulder exercise or two in it? Or is it going to be that once a week we're going to do 2 hours worth of shoulders, and then you're going to be so sore and fatigued from your shoulders that's going to affect tomorrow's back workout and the days after's chest workout? Well, that's motivation versus discipline. And that's kind of what I think your question is leading to. Yes, the day you're feeling great, use it and do that extra workout. Do that extra set, do those extra 2 exercises. Cool. But don't let it take away from your discipline. You'll gain a lot more from showing up every day and just doing what you have to do and being consistent about it than trying to fit it all in one day whenever that fire is lit.
I was going to say consistency then comes into play.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
discipline first, and then use motivation as the spice on
Right.
top.
Okay, cool. Well, I think this is where we'll close it off for today. What I'll finish with is, guys, make sure you have a nice combination of hard work and relaxation. Make sure you enjoy the good times, but don't forget that the good times only feel good if you've had bad times, adversities, or have worked hard to gain those good times. I'll leave you with the example. I used to cycle, pretty seriously, and cycling was a good example. It's a sport where it's a love-hate relationship with that sport. It could be a windy, rainy day, and it's the worst day of your life, and you're like, yeah, I'm cycling 200 kilometers today. What the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? I'm an idiot. And then you power through it. And then there are other days where it's beautiful and you power through it, but it feels that much nicer because the sun's out. But at the end of the day, after all that suffering, there's no beer that tastes better than the beer you had that day. There's no shower that feels better than the shower you had that day. I did 1,000 kilometers in 5 days unsupported in a row. I remember, a few years back.
Yeah,
And
man, that was pretty baller.
right, there's no meal that feels better after that. Right. So I'm just giving a very tangible physical example, but this applies in many concepts. But don't forget that you need to suffer, work hard to then appreciate what you have.
No,
And that's what I would leave it at.
I would co-sign that completely. So everyone, we were very descriptive and prescriptive in this episode. Challenge us. If you agree with something, if you disagree with something, if you think we missed something, or you think something that we said doesn't work, let us know. We'll be happy to talk it out, or maybe visit it on another podcast.
Yeah, give us examples of strategies you use to keep yourself motivated. This is all about, especially in these kind of times, guys. It's all about keeping each other motivated and trying to be the best you can be, really.
So we hoped it helped you. Catch you on the next one.
All right, cheers, guys. This was another episode of Thought Crimes. And again, you can catch us on Instagram, locals.com at Thought Crimes Podcast. You can also find us wherever podcasts are listened to, mainly Spotify and Apple Podcasts. See you next time.